Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren
and I'm Maureen.
Yeah, so in today's episode you're going to be reacting to a video of a very famous speech of Leo Mohammed.
Yeah, and Leo Mohammed was one of the biggest human rights activists, and he also championed for black rights, you know. So let's just listen to this video and then we come back and talk about it.
When they took you from Africa and they banned you from being called Kunta Kinte, Rasul or Muhammad.
That's right.
When they took us on that westerly course, then they forced us into their names.
Teach.
And they called us Smith, Jones, Robinson, Green, Brown, Hogg. A black man called Mr. White.
That's right.
And when we go to China,
Listen.
and we put our passport down, and the Chinese immigration control official looks at that passport and he sees Mr. White, he expects to see a white man. And when he sees the black man, he says, uh-oh, this man doesn't know who he is.
Actual fact.
But many of us as black people today, we're very foolish people.
Right.
Because we don't understand why another man gives you his name. Because when he gives you his name, the giving of another's name denotes possession. It means he owns you. As long as you're walking in another man's name, he knows he owns you. You can talk as strong as you like. Yeah, I'm for black, yeah, Mrs. White. Yeah, they're laughing at you. Because they know that when you take another's name, that's why in marriage, in the tradition of marriage, the woman takes the man's surname.
Go ahead.
And leaves her maiden name, because that taking of the other's name denotes possession. In the event of divorce, you don't walk around with the other man's name. You now relinquish that name because you're no longer with that one. What brings about insecurity is when you have a false concept of yourself. And the false concept of self is white supremacy. They believe that they are better because they are white. And as a result, see, when a man has that kind of silly mentality, Hitler had the silly mentality that the white man, the Aryan, is superior. So then at the Olympics, Jesse Owens kicks up all the Aryans. Hitler is outraged. He's angry. The white man pushing white supremacy. That's why they would cut off our penis when they would lynch us. Penis envy. They're afraid of the black man because of our potency, because of our manliness. Because when you look at the black man, he's a real man. He's strong. So then they would have us as mandingos, fighting one another. That's why even today, they want to be the heavyweight champion of the world. They can't find a white man to do it. So they tried to turn a black man, Frank Bruno, into a white man. They call him the Great White Hope. They're desperate. We're not allowed to play golf. Why are we not allowed to play golf? Because we are inferior. We can't play the game. But let one black man into golf. Then all of a sudden there's a tiger in the woods. And he doesn't just play golf, he becomes the master. We're not allowed to play tennis. Let black people into tennis. We go straight to Wimbledon and win it in 1935. A black woman. Now Venus and Serena, they run out of opponents. They have to play each other. The white people cannot compete on an even playing field. They let us into athletics. You can't run like us. You let us into any field of endeavor, we dominate it. So they feel, and they become very afraid of anything that goes contrary. And so every time a black man stands up for black people, Martin Luther King, shot down. Malcolm X, shot down. Patrice Lumumba, shot down. Steve Biko, shot down. Everyone. Nelson Mandela, they locked him up for 27 years. We can count back 400 years of the most brutal treatment. Look, they took my name, my language, my culture. They killed my mother, my father, denied me religion, disallowed me to read or write for over 300 300 years. Reduced me to the level of an animal where they branded me on my chest, branded me on my buttocks with a branding iron. And they called me 3/5 of a human being in the American Constitution. Is that the act of a human being or the act of a devil? It's for you. You answer it. We're just calling white people names. No! We're just going on the basis of what we have experienced. Black people were taught to hate ourselves.
That's right.
Even to this day, many of my people suffer from self-hatred.
Teach Muhammad.
And you will see us trying to change our skin color.
Teach Muhammad.
When I was born in the 50s, in Jamaica, they would take, you know, like my nose, the mothers would sometimes take the nose and try to squash it, to hate self, that they felt that the baby was ugly if it had thick lips and broad nose and black skin. And so this is in order to counterbalance that degree of self-hatred, there had to be a teaching given by Elijah to black people that would allow us to fall in love once again with ourselves. See, because look, I know you're a wise man, and so you must understand that I'm a baby in wisdom, but I'm not a fool. And he's saying here today that the Caucasian is in fact the oldest group on the planet. I beg to differ. Look, one of the most famous anthropologists is Professor Leakey. And when Professor Leakey went in search of the origin of human beings and human species, he didn't stop very long in Europe. He went to Africa. And the oldest bones and the oldest human beings to this day that you call Zinjanthropus, using the Latin meaning Zin and Xanthropus, meaning a black man, that oldest man, they say, is millions of years old. You went back and found one even older than that. You called her Lucy, a black woman.
Go ahead.
And every sensible historian, anthropologist today agrees that the black man is the father of human beings. Even your geneticist, Mr. Mendel.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You have Mendel's law.
Go ahead.
Mendel says that light eyes are recessive, light skin is recessive. You can take the recessive, the dark skin is dominant, the dark eyes are dominant. You can take the recessive from the dominant, but you can't get the dominant from the recessive. This is Mendel's law. And so all of your scientists have proved that you can't look. Black is not even a color.
That's right.
Black is the mother and father of all colors. And if you want a baby, even if the woman is a white woman, the baby has to come out of the triple darkness of her womb. And this is the origin of all life. Within the black, you have the whole color spectrum. But in white, two white people laying down together, they can only produce white. But two black people in darkest Africa can lay down together and produce albino with blonde hair and blue eyes.
That's right. Teach Muhammad.
This happens all the time. And so we need to really get these facts correct today and understand that as gray as your hair is, you are listening to your father today.
Teach Muhammad.
This is daddy talking.
Teach.
And we mustn't turn. No, this is true. I'm not mocking. The white man, he came into what he called a new world.
Teach Muhammad.
And so all of a sudden you started to name things.
Teach Muhammad.
So that's why you called it America, based on, what was his name? Amerigo Vespucci, a Caucasian.
Africa.
That's why you called it Africa, based on the European explorer called Africanus. You went into America, you called it New York.
That's right.
Because it was new to you.
New England.
You called it New England.
That's right.
You called it New Zealand. You called it Newfoundland. Because it was new to you. But to us, we were already there. That's why we're called Aboriginals.
From
Ab, meaning abstracted from the Father.
Muhammad.
From God himself. Original, meaning the first. But you won't find Caucasian people calling themselves Aboriginal anywhere on the planet. Because you're the new man, Paul Newman. From one blood came all human beings, but we produced you from us. Look at this. Even the word human, you've heard the term of a darker hue. Human meaning a dark man, human, a man of color. That's why the topsoil of the earth is called humus. It is the dark organic material that gives life to the earth. Whenever you take away the dark organic material or you denature it, you're left with white granulated sand. Desert. You want to see those of us who think that white something to glorify in. No, no, no. It's a psychological thing with white people where you want to find your place. And your scientists and your historians, they spend so much time asking the question, where do we come from? Because they are puzzled as to your origin. Look at the Chinese, look at the Asians, look at the black people. All of us got dark eyes. All of us got black hair. The only one on the planet who's got ginger hair, blonde hair, brown hair, grey hair, brunette. You are the one that's gone around the world making everything based on color. You were the one who went into Australia. You were the one who went into South Africa. You were the one who went into Asia and classified people and things based on color. So that's why this man, Yaqub, he wasn't a madman. He wasn't a mad scientist. He was a good scientist. And the Caucasian person is a person who is anti-nature. That's why when the sun comes out, I'm energized. Me and the sun, we got a relationship. I love the sun. I don't need no sunscreen. I don't get cancer from the sun. Me and the sun have got a good relationship. I love it and it loves me. But white people, you got to put sunblock on. You got to hide from the sun, because now you might get a little melanoma. Part of me on you, that means you're...
Wow, guys, welcome back. So you've had to hear the speech of Leo Mohammed, and I feel like he's touched on a lot of topics. And what stood out for me is something that I didn't even know. I tell you, this episode also, they always surprise us, and they always
open up your
us.
mind.
Exactly. When he was explaining about how the word Africa came about, and it was named after the explorer Africanus. That is new information that I'm learning today. You know,
right? And you know, the most interesting thing is that Africa did not it's not like Africa didn't have a name when Africanus came to Africa. Africa was already called Alkebulan, you know, but Africanus had to name it after his own self, you know. And then also Leo says that white people are the ones who brought the colorism system in the world, and this is because they were trying to understand where they themselves came from, you know, because
they just don't understand why in their quest to find where they were coming from, they had to disrupt everybody.
They had to involve everybody and disrupt the whole system of what everybody else knew, because everybody else, in some way or another, everybody else have already always knew where they were coming from. So white people wanted to know why amidst us are people who have ginger hairs, people who have green eyes, people who have blue eyes, and this is why they were going around disrupting the way of living of everybody else.
Another thing he mentioned about, you know, when white people are colonizing the world and they were taking black people into slavery and changing their names, you know, true to the nature of a white man, always changing things, trying to cover up, you know, the truth that they don't want people to find. Black Americans lost their culture, and this is nothing new to them. It's nothing new we are teaching. We are not teaching anything. It is known. You understand? When they call them, what he said, when they called them the name Smith, Brown, white man, Greenland, you know, it's quite funny, because right now I'm just wondering, you know, that is the biggest trophy by far white people have on their side. They gave African people, African descendants of slaves, white names, and it has stuck till date. You know, now what I usually wonder is what would be the results if black Americans started calling themselves African names? Because by now most of you have already done ancestry DNA tests, and then, for example, if you come from Igbo land, you just look at some common names from Igbo land, common last names, and then when you call yourself something like Johnson, Johnson is still a white name.
Well, Nkechi, yes, something Nkechi, you know, it would be really nice. Amaka, you know, and those who have ancestry to Zimbabwe, look for common Zimbabwean names and call yourselves that, you know. So it's very, very nice that this information, like, a lot of our audience usually like to say that this is the era of information, and I do agree with them, because right now you can literally find any information about what happened in the past life that you were not around to see.
Yeah, and Black Americans, I understand that there are those who don't see themselves as Africans because they say our culture are different, and them, they have their own culture. For these ones, I've seen in movies that there are those people who are called Laquisha, Laquan, you know, I feel like that is a black name that a white person would never own. So for those who
can you imagine a white person being called Laquan? It would be interesting.
Yeah, but I feel like you know, for them to feel powerful, they had to rename these people. But what would happen if all the black people in the world, even the Caribbean, dropped these white-looking names and started prescribing to what they culturally are prescribed to, or where the ancestry comes from? You know, what would happen 10 years down the line?
Right.
The white name would be completely dropped.
And you know, another thing also Leo Mohammed spoke on was the self-hate that has been indoctrinated into black people, and I can agree with him. It's not only in America. Anywhere where slavery and colonization took place, black people, Indian people, if you have any kind of melanin in your body, people were taught how to self-hate themselves if you didn't have a lighter skin tone.
That is very true. If you look at a good case here in Africa, it happens everywhere, but the most common case happens in Nigeria.
Yeah, the bleaching industry is $1 billion business because people in West Africa, they're trying to change their melanated skins to be white
or to be lighter brown.
To be lighter, because they've been told, much like most parts of Africa, that a light skin person is way better, and it's true, and they get way more opportunities than people with my complexion. You know, they get more work opportunity. You know, things easily come to them than black people.
Yeah, colorism is a true problem in Africa. And if you also look at these cases where a lot of Africans are marrying white people, this is the same thing they want to have in their own opinion. And I won't lie, I was once in in that bracket
bubble,
because you look at people like Kim Kardashian, the kind of babies they have, and then there's a YouTuber called Marwa. He's right now he's a Kenyan YouTuber. He's married to dating an Argentinian. They're expecting a baby, and the reason he was putting forward was he did not want to have a baby with a black woman or an African woman.
Yeah, because in his travels he's had quite many problems because of the skin color of his skin and where he came from, which is Africa. So during his travels he's had a lot of challenges because of his skin color, a lot of discrimination because of his skin color. So in his defense, he was saying he wanted, when he has a baby, to have a white baby or a lighter baby, so that baby would go through less of the struggles that he's had to go through.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, in Africa, him having such a baby, to be honest, that baby
puts him on a pedestal.
Exactly, and that baby
the baby.
Yeah, that baby is going to have a lot of opportunities that other colored Kenyans don't have, and it's quite sad to say this, but this is just an example of the colonialism that took place in Africa and what it did to the mindset of Africans and any other black person, to be honest.
Yeah, so if you ask me, will this issue ever come to an end? Quite hardly, if ever.
Yeah,
it's very, very difficult because it's been deeply indoctrinated to black people to self-hate.
Yeah, if you look at Indians really are bleaching. They're bleaching in huge numbers.
Yeah, and you'll find parents of Indian people who marry black people disowning them. Parents of Latin Americans who are marrying black people disowning those people who marry black people.
Yeah,
so
why?
It's really quite a menace, and this, as we usually say, there's still a lot to be done, but this is the first step, talking about it, because indoctrination also worked by talking. Black is this,
selling beliefs.
Black is bad, selling beliefs. So the only way eventually colorism will come to decrease to some level, I think, is by letting people know what is affecting them.
Exactly, the benefits. Being black is a is a benefit, not a disadvantage.
Yeah, because as Leo Muhammad says, just by the power we have by her being black is that we have a relationship with nature, we have a relationship with the sun, whereas people of pale color, they have to hide from the sun. You'll find most of the time that the ones trying to disrupt the environment because they don't understand what the environment is. But most of the time, black people, they do understand, they do get along with nature, you know?
Yeah.
Everything, because when I'm inside the house, sometimes you feel dull, you feel depressed, but the minute you walk outside and you get sun-kissed, oh my God, you just...
the energy
shifts, you know.
Yeah.
So you guys, let us know what you think about this episode.
Yeah, I think we're going to leave it at that. And I feel like it's people like Leah Muhammad
who greatly shaped the black community.
Right, Malcolm X, you know, Louis Farrakhan. They really shaped the black community by really talking positively. And you know, these are role models. Look at someone like Muhammad Ali. He was a great influence in the black community. So imagine when a young child listens to Muhammad Ali and hears him talk about how beautiful it is to be black. You know, it does something to a kid. So,
so guys, leave us a comment on what you think about this episode, and if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. But until next time, it's a bye for now.